Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna, Prabhus, Hare Krishna, Mataji. It's nice to see some familiar faces, and I see many new faces actually, and that is the sign of good progress, that many more living entities are getting attracted towards the message of the Bhagavad Gita. You will find that in the last few years, I'm not sure why, there has been a resurgence in the interest that people have towards Hinduism, people have towards the Gita, the Bhagavatam, Vedic literature, and especially bhajans. They have a concept now known as bhajan clubbing, right? Not sure what that means, but anyway, there's some resurgence that's happening. But one thing we must be very careful is that at every juncture, there will be resurgence of concepts or parts of history that will always rise again. But Krishna warns us in Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna, why I am speaking Bhagavad Gita to you is because this message has been first given to the sun, to Manu, to Ikshvaku, and then you. So Arjuna must have been wondering why so many people. But if you see the gap between Vivaswan, Manu, Ikshvaku and Arjuna, the gap in between them is very wide. So at every juncture, Krishna actually comes to deliver the same message. Why? Because in that gap, there has been too much of distortion of the message. People receive it in a way, and based on their material inclinations, they project the message in a very distorted way. And when it goes on for a few years, a few decades, and sometimes a few generations, people will start believing that this is what Krishna actually gave. But then we will find that we are still miserable, right? When we go for bhajan clubbing, maybe 10 minutes, half an hour, we are very happy. But once we come out of the club, we have sung Krishna's names, but we still go back to the same rut. Still go back home, there's misunderstanding between family members. We go back to office, the same boss looking at us. We still dread Monday. We still look forward to Friday. Same old thing happens again. So what is wrong? There's nothing wrong. But the message that we are receiving whenever there's such resurgence, it must come from the correct source. And that is why we need to study Bhagavad Gita on our own and not simply depend on someone to come and give us this message. Of course, we should approach bona fide spiritual teachers, bona fide persons. But if we ourselves do not touch the Gita and we ourselves do not research, then what happens is anyone who comes past may be able to fluke us. And we will take it because something is exciting, we take it. So today we look at one verse from Bhagavad Gita. This is the 3rd chapter and it is the 15th verse. Do we usually do the repetition, Prabhu? The usual thing, right? Okay. Okay, so I will chant and then you can repeat. This is the 15th verse of the 3rd chapter. Okay? Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi. Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi. Brahmakshara Samudbhavam. Brahmakshara Samudbhavam. Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma. Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma. Nityam Yagye Pratishtitam. Nityam Yagye Pratishtitam. Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi. Brahmakshara Samudbhavam. Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma. Nityam Yagye Pratishtitam. Anyone wants to chant?
Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi.
Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi.
Brahmakshara Samudbhavam. Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma.
Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma. Nityam Yagye Pratishtitam. Any Matajis want to chant? Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi. Brahmakshara Samudbhavam. Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma. Nityam Yagye Pratishtitam. Anyone else?
Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi.
Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi. Brahmaksharasamudbhavam Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma Nityam Yajne Pratishtitam. Very nice, Mataji. This is really the way to chant. Everyone should actually chant the Gita. You know how nicely you've chanted. And if you have this potency for chanting, then we should chant every day. It's so nice the way you chanted. So please repeat the synonyms. Karma, work. Brahma, from the Vedas. Udbhavam, produced. Vidhi, you should know. Brahma, the Vedas. Akshara, from the Supreme Brahman, personality of Godhead. Samudbhavam, directly manifested. Tasmat, therefore. Sarvagatam, all pervading. Brahma, transcendence. Nityam, eternally. Yajne, in sacrifice. Pratishtitam, situated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Please repeat the translation. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas. And the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. Please hear the purport. Yajna karma, or the necessity of work for the satisfaction of Krishna only, is more expressly stated in this verse. If we have to work for the satisfaction of the Yajna Purush Vishnu, then we must find out the direction of work in Brahman, or the transcendental Vedas. The Vedas are therefore codes of working directions. Anything performed without the direction of the Vedas is called vikarma, or unauthorized or sinful work. Therefore, one should always take direction from the Vedas to be saved from the reaction of work. As one has to work in ordinary life by the direction of the state, one similarly has to work under direction of the supreme state of the Lord. Such directions in the Vedas are directly manifested from the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said, Asya Mahato Bhutasya Nishvasitam Etat Yat Rig Vedo Yajur Vedo Sama Vedo Tarvaringirasaha. The four Vedas, namely the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Atharva Veda, are all emanations from the breathing of the Personality of Godhead. Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 4.5.11. The Lord, being omnipotent, can speak by breathing air. For as it is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, the Lord has the omnipotence to perform through each of His senses the actions of all other senses. In other words, the Lord can speak through His breathing and He can impregnate by His eyes. In fact, it is said that He glanced over material nature and thus fathered all living entities. After creating or impregnating the conditioned souls into the womb of material nature, He gave His directions in the Vedic wisdom as to how such conditioned souls can return home back to Godhead. We should always remember that the conditioned souls in material nature are all eager for material enjoyment. But the Vedic directions are so made that one can satisfy one's perverted desires, then return to Godhead, having finished his so-called enjoyment. It is a chance for the conditioned souls to attain liberation. Therefore, the conditioned souls must try to follow the process of yajna by becoming Krishna conscious. Even those who have not followed the Vedic injunctions may adopt the principles of Krishna consciousness, and that will take the place of performance of Vedic yajnas or karmas. Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakriya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this verse that we are looking at is actually a follow through of the last verse. In the last verse, if you saw, it was said Anna Bhavanti Bhutani. Parjanya Anna Sambhavaha. Right? Yagyat Bhavati Parjanyo Yagya Karma Samudbhavaha. The verse is speaking about our bodies. We all have our bodies here. How do we maintain our bodies? We go to work, we have family, right? We study. Is that how we maintain our body? No, we don't. What do we need to maintain the body? Health, which is given by excellent rule. It's very simple. Actually, we all think that our body is maintained by so many things. But if we starve for one day, then you will realize in your life you don't need anyone. You just need food. Right? So Krishna is very direct. He said, Anna bhavati bhutani. Through the rice or through food, you maintain your body. But how do we get food? By rain. This is very scientific. Actually, we don't need Gita to tell us this. If you look at nature, that's how it is. There's rain, there's rice, someone harvests it, and we eat it. But for the rains to come, how does it come? We have studied in science, there's evaporation, there's condensation, there's the clouds, so many things. But how does all these things happen? There is a gap there. We say there's heat, there's sun. But there is an invisible link between what we get and what nature produces. And that, Krishna says, it comes through sacrifice. If we think that it is very mystical, just understand one thing. For the rice to reach us, will it just come? The wheats will come out and they will walk to the supermarket and we take it? Someone in between has to sacrifice. And who is the person who sacrifices? It's the farmer. The first man to sacrifice for us to get food, or the first woman to sacrifice, is the farmer. Whether he makes money or not, we know how difficult farming is. Even with machines, the farmer has to get into the fields, there is hot sun, and he goes through misery when there is no sun, when there is no rain. There's so much of sacrifice that he makes before the rice or the food reaches us. This is a fact. But Krishna is saying even beyond that, there are sacrifices that must be performed for rains to actually come. And today what we understand is that for those sacrifices to be made, human beings must perform the sacrifice. So the moment we hear sacrifice, we immediately think that there must be a oven and there must be some twigs and we must start the fire. There must be a priest here chanting very strange mantras. Smoke must go all over and then the rains will come. But here, Krishna is giving a very nuanced and very practical understanding of what sacrifice is. He says sacrifice means humans living their lives in a very regulated manner. Sacrifice means the farmer can sleep till 10 a.m. But by that time, or 12 p.m. or 1 p.m., by that time the sun has already moved. What time does the farmer wake up? Very early, 3:30, 4 a.m. I mean, I've never been there, but I have heard people saying that they wake up very early. They sacrifice and we get something. He did not start a oven, but what did he sacrifice? He sacrificed what was comfortable for him. This is a very, very important point. Anyone who wants to be successful, anyone who wants to serve the greater society or community must sacrifice what he likes or what he thinks that is comfort. And in today's verse you will find Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma Nityam Yagye Pratishthitam. Krishna is here in the altar, right? We see Krishna. But when you leave this home, you get into your offices, or if you shut the altar and you are with your family, then where is Krishna? In this verse it is mentioned, Krishna is dwelling in sacrifice. Anyone who sacrifices, Krishna enters that space. Tasmat Sarvam Gata Brahma Nityam yajne pratishtitam. Pratishtitam means he is situated. Where? In yajna, sacrifice. When? Nityam, always. So if we want to catch Krishna, one must move out of comfort zone. One must start to serve instead of exploit. If right now you are eating, right? If let's say there is an ant that climbs onto your rice, what is our inert reaction? Right? We'll flick the ant because we want to consume the rice. We are not willing to sacrifice it for another living entity. In our culture, in many generations ago, it is mentioned in scripture, before a householder means one who lives with wife, husband, children, and he has these four corners of the wall, right? Before he has lunch, before he has dinner, he has to go out and he has to clap his hand 3 times. And he has to call out, who wants food? If no one comes, very nice. He goes back and he honors prasadam and he's very happy. But if someone comes and says that I do not have food, then he must serve the guests first, regardless of what caste they come from. No matter who they are, whether they are CEO of an IT company, right, or they are a janitor, no matter, or they are unemployed, they are retrenched, it doesn't matter. Anyone who comes, he will actually have to serve. And then he goes in to have his prasadam. And in that way, what does he do? He himself is satisfied and he also satisfies the environment. This is an important point that we need to understand. Because if we keep consuming, when you keep eating, right, and you do not exercise, what happens? We become unhealthy. That's a very generic statement. But what actually is happening in our body? Exactly, stroke, right? There's fats, there's stroke. How does all these things happen? Because our arteries, our veins, our heart, and all the organs are actually becoming constricted and there is blockage. The more you consume, the more your body becomes blocked. Sometimes it's even difficult for the air to move. And that's why it's very difficult for us to breathe. Our life force becomes stuck when we keep consuming and we do not sacrifice. Life force has got nothing to do with your arteries and all. Life force is something that is more subtle. Those who sacrifice are alive. You see sages, right? Till today, if you go to any maybe American or Westerner, when they sneeze, they will say Jesus, right? Why do they say that? Some random man called Jesus, right? Carpenter's son, right? Didn't have PhD, right? He's not as rich as Elon Musk. He didn't start any social media. Nobody likes his posts. But when they sneeze, when they wake up, when they sleep, they always call out this name. Why? Okay, but why do they call out his name? They can call their wife's name. They can call their husband. Why Jesus?
Supreme being.
Because Jesus stands for sacrifice. He sacrificed himself so that others, the sins of others, will be eradicated. And when they nailed him to the cross, what did he say? I did so much for you and you're nailing me. Did he say that? He said, no. My Father, my dear Father, they do not know what they are doing. So please excuse them. Can you see the limit of sacrifice? So when a person sacrifices their life for others, what happens is they are loved by everyone. Why do we always give so much prominence to mother? Why? Because her sacrifice is the closest sacrifice that can come as close as God sacrifices for us. It's the closest. no one can say that the mother does not sacrifice enough. We really have to be so ungrateful to tell her that. Just 9 months in the stomach, how much she sacrifices her time, her energy, and her comfort to bring us in. So anyone who sacrifices, naturally you will find, will get the respect. So if we want to unblock the energy and the life force in our body and our life, it is best that living entity should start sacrificing. Now you must be thinking, oh, what am I going to sacrifice now? Is Shamdev Prabhu going? He's setting up Shamdev Prabhu to ask us some money after this. Is he going to ask us to do so many more things? You'll find one thing. Sacrifice in modern terms is a very grand thing. Actually, sacrifice is very simple. Look at the tree. This example is given in Bhagavatam in 11th canto. The tree, what does the tree give us? It gives us fruits, it gives us shelter, right? And even when you destroy and cut it, it gives you wood, right? So that you can burn and you can keep yourself warm. No matter what you do to the tree, it gives you something positive and it sacrifices. Now, question to you, what does the tree need to survive? Salt, soil, paneer, chapati, at least a meal at a 2-star Michelin restaurant, at least a $10,000 salary. What does it need to sacrifice? Only water, sunlight, and soil, whatever. Very simple. It needs the basic necessity to actually sacrifice. So what does sacrifice take? Hardly anything. Mountains. Mountains provide caves. They provide minerals. They provide the waterfalls. And so many other things comes from mountains. What do mountains require? Excellent. Actually, this is the only time I heard someone give the answer. Because everyone will look at me and say, mountains don't need anything. Actually, no. Mountains need water. They need water for sustenance. They are living entities. Bhagavatam tells us very clearly, they are not just inert, lifeless objects. They have life. They need the rain. They need the water to survive. So what do they require? Sabji? Paneer? Nothing. Water. So if we want to live life, which will become a need. We will say that we are very intelligent. These marketers cannot cheat us. They have already cheated us. The seed is planted. It will just take time to fructify. So it is not our fault. But the way the world is moving now, and the propaganda is that we must consume as much as possible. Right? If our elders are all seated there, you can ask them. If their t-shirt or their shirt, the button had come off, likely their parents would have told them that, I'll give you a needle, I'll give you a thread, you sew it and you wear it. Now what do we tell our children? It's okay. We'll go to H&M, we'll go to Uniqlo, only $20. We'll change the t-shirt. So it is moving towards consumerist society. The more this becomes our habit, what happens is that act of sacrifice the previous generation had. Come, I will sow it for you. The time that is spent doing it, the sacrifice that is made to reuse that object is completely lost. You see, these things we don't learn in school, but Gita teaches us. So consumerism has become the order of the day. We come home and we feel that we're very stressed at work. What is one thing? Come, we can move it. What is one thing that we do when we come back home and we are very stressed? Anyone?
Watch TV, watch phone.
He gave all the answers in just one line. We have a couch, we sit and we watch the TV and we consume. So consuming is not only what we are buying and what we are eating. Consuming also means what we hear and what we see. You see? So this consumerist propaganda has become very rampant these days. And we don't choose our shows also. Some show comes, right, and we just watch. So what happens is when consumerism becomes prevalent, our inner intelligence to select what is right for us, it goes further down away from the priority cycle. You know, as much as we have to be careful what we put into our mouth, now we're very careful, right? You go to some cafes, they will tell you the calories, right? They tell you this is 250, then you select, no, I will eat 150 calories. But when we come home, the TV doesn't tell you, this is 100 calorie, this movie. It hits you, you have a nightmare. It doesn't give you a label. But actually, this is worse consumption. Please don't throw away your TVs. You go home, keep it, watch it, be happy. But this knowledge has to be there so that we don't mindlessly watch it. We always have a tap to control what we watch, what we are hearing. It's very important. And this happened to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was actually the cause of the Pandavas suffering so much. It's very easy to put the blame on Duryodhan, Karna, so many people. But the cause was actually Dhritarashtra. Why? Because when a parent does not know how to reprimand the child will eventually go into a certain trajectory. Dhritarashtra could not reprimand and restrain his child. So what happened? His children got killed. Who killed them? The Pandavas. It's a fact. Once his own children got killed, where did Dhritarashtra go? Back to the very people who killed his sons. Can you imagine? Right? Your relative insults you like anything. But next day, you go to their house for dinner. How would you feel? You would never do it. Right? Now, too much ego. How can he say that to me? He went to live with those people who killed his own children. Why? Because he could not give up his comfortable kingly living. You see the point? Sometimes when we get too comfortable, we want to consume and we are very comfortable with a certain standard of living. We cannot give up that standard. And even it is at the cost of our honor and the cost of our life, we will still continue to consume. This is the danger of consumption. And what happened to Dhritarashtra? Lucky for him, he had a very good brother. And who was his brother? Vidura. So Vidura comes to him and says, Vidurastat abhipretya. Vidura knew what was going to happen if he kept consuming. So Vidura tells him, Dhritarashram abhashata. He tells him that now you listen to me. He says, Rajan, you are king. Nirgamyatam shigram. Nirgamyatam means come out of your comfort zone. Shigram means immediately you come out now. And why does he call him Rajan? Is he the king? He's not. Very nice, Prabhu. Right? Rajan, the king, is Yudhishthir. Why does he call him king? He's mocking him. He's saying that you think you are king. Just because you can consume something, you are not. These comforts will be taken away from you. Nirgamyatam shigram. And then he tells him, Pashyedam bhayamagatam. Now see, Dhritarashtra, look into the future. Fear has overtaken you. This very carefully we have to examine this. When we get a certain level of comfort, actually fear enters our heart. Fear enters. Now if we are earning some money, we are all afraid when the retrenchment is going to come. We are all afraid, right? Especially those who are in corporate world, we can put up a front. I'm earning this much, I'm in this bank, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, in front of everyone. But when we go to sleep, you have a wife, you have children, or the lady has children, husband, when we go to sleep, it is at the back of our head. Let's admit it. It is at the back of our, because we are responsible people. So we are worried. But what is Vidura telling? Dhritarashtra, do whatever you want to do, but do not get attached to your standard of living. Very important. Be comfortable, Prabhus and Matajis. Earn as much as you want. But do not get comfortable with where you are currently. Because in 50 years ago, for you to flip from one position to another will take you months. But in this day and age, it takes you, it's like a drop of a hat. You will move from one end to the other end. That's how complicated our corporate systems have become. You cannot get into your office. It is the reality, right? So do what we need to do, but make sacrifice the priority in our life. And we'll conclude with one example, because we must be thinking, all this philosophy is there, but how to do it? There was one entity, and his name was Manu. Manu taught the world. Manu means the father of mankind, right? Manu taught the world how to sacrifice while living a regulated life. Manu went into, after work every day, he would come into his home. Prabhu, I'll take maybe 5-10 more minutes.
Yeah.
So when he comes into his home, Bhagavatam tells us that the moment he enters his house, Tapatraya Vinashana. Tapatraya Vinashana means that there is no misery in his house. There is no misery caused by his mind, no misery caused by others, and no misery caused by natural disasters. That is how he had set up his house. Now when we come home, as I said, we are still fearful. What is going to happen? What is going to happen? But Manu, on the contrary, was never afraid, even though he was working. And what did he do at home? Sabarya sapraja kaman bubuje anya virodataha. Bhagavatam writes that he enjoyed his family life with his wife and children. Very practical. How many of us come home and we don't want to enjoy with our family? We all want to do that. And does Bhagavad Gita tell us don't do that? No. Home means we must be happy. That's why we come home. If in a home people are screaming and shouting at each other, then no matter how much you earn, you can paint the house, you can buy many objects, but it is a house, it is not a home. So Manu, his first priority, he was a devotee, he was a king, he was a sage, but his first priority was to give time to his family, to spend time with his family. Now you must be wondering, so if I do all that, then why am I studying Bhagavad Gita? Where's the spirituality in this? But then, Manu woke up early every morning. Hrida Shrinvan Hare Kataha Prati Ushesh Anubaddena. That means before the sun rose, he woke up and he heard the glories of Hari. That means before anyone woke up, he was awake. What do we call this? Sacrifice. Nityam Yajne Pratishtitam. What did he sacrifice?
Sleep.
Who said sleep? Very good. Because it is the most difficult thing to sacrifice. You can even sacrifice food, right? But sleep is so difficult. We will put our shoes outside, we'll put our running clothes, just where we can take it. Today I read an article, right? Every day if I run 5 kilometers, my fats will all come down. Tomorrow, definite, I'm waking up. Everything is ready now. All the plans have been made. 5 a.m. Alarm rings. We get up. We start thinking, what did I do last night? I must be very tired. What is going to happen today? I'm only going to come back about 8 p.m. I need to reserve my energy. I'll run tomorrow. So, we are not able to sacrifice. Does the world wait for us? Does the fats in our body say that actually he was tired yesterday, tomorrow he will run, but today I will go away? No, life goes on. It will still be there. I'm not encouraging exercise here. I'm just giving you an example, right? It's all right to have fats in the body, right? That's another topic. It's okay. But this is popular with people. So I'm using that as an example. If we don't sacrifice something in our life, then you will find that everything becomes blocked. So he sacrificed his sleep. And what did he do when he wake up? Because sometimes we wake up very early in the morning, but we don't know what to do. Right? Yeah. Nobody is here, everybody is sleeping. So what do? He did 4 things. Right? Shiranvato. He heard. First thing he woke up, he heard the glories of Krishna. You know why hearing is very important? Because if you study science, and especially spiritual science, the first sense that develops in the fetus is actually the sense of hearing. That is why, right, they tell the mothers, hear nice music. You know, why? Why don't they say watch TV? Because they can't see. It can hear. So, the sense of hearing. But more importantly, before we leave this world, what do we come with? We come with hearing. Before we leave, the last sense to leave us is also the sense of hearing. That is why those who are in coma, right, you don't project an image in front of them. What do they say? Speak. Speak to the person. Because sense is very difficult to leave the body. It will attach itself to us. So this sense of hearing is the first thing that we should sacrifice every day. And how should we sacrifice? Not hearing Spotify, but to hearing the glories of Krishna. Shrinvato, Dhyayato. When he heard, he starts to think about, what is this 3:15 of Bhagavad Gita? You know, yesterday I heard Nityam Yagye Pratishtitam. How can I apply it in my own life? Contemplation. Dhyayato Vishnuhu. Then Kurvato. Kurvato means we also speak. We give it to our family members. You know, it is very, very important that we give this to the next generation. They will study. They will become successful. They are more savvy than us nowadays. But culture can only be given by the previous generation. It cannot be given in the school. The organization will not give it to them. But only the parent and especially the grandparents. You know, grandparents are reservoir of knowledge. Parents are knowledge, but grandparents are reservoir. That's why when I grew up, at least, I used to spend a lot of time with my grandparents. And the kind of things they told me, it's not from Gita. But now when I study the Gita, I start thinking that they told me this 30 years ago. And now I need to come to this to understand all this. So grandparents and parents, they are reservoir of knowledge. So we expose ourselves to such knowledge. So we speak to them and we write down. Writing is also a very important exercise. Keep a diary. Write. Don't just write priorities. Right? Priorities will change. But write about realizations. What was your challenge that day? How did you overcome it? And especially write, how did you apply the Bhagavad Gita? I keep a notebook. And every day I try to write 1 or 2 verses from Gita or Bhagavatam. I don't write my own realizations. I just write the verse, I write the translation, and I keep it. And I try to memorize the verse. It's like a tablet, you know. If you're sick, you take Panadol, right? So these verses are like tablets. They will not help you on the day you are memorizing and studying it. But days and weeks down the road, when you are sick, not only with disease, with situations, with people, when you're sick with people and situations, you cannot take Panadol. Nowadays people are doing that. They overdose. But we should overdose ourselves with verses from Gita. If we do this sacrifice, Prabhu's Matajis, you will find that you don't need anyone. You don't need to go anywhere. Your life will become completely beautiful and it will become very fragrant. So this is what we look. See, only one verse. And if you really looked at it, I only explained the last line of the verse. We have not even looked at the first 3 lines. This is how much content and nectar there is in Bhagavad Gita. And this is what we need to be doing. So thank you very much for patiently hearing. Hare Krishna. Okay, we have time for one or two questions. Anyone wants to ask? This is a family setting. That's why it's a home. We're not having it in a temple. So please feel free. Even if you have a comment, you want to speak, feel free to speak. It's nice. Yes.
How do we know what to sacrifice and what not to sacrifice?
Okay.
For example, say in terms of relationships, we know that something might be wrong. For example, in Ramayana also, Rama at the end he just let Sita go into the forest. So there he had sacrificed her. But I don't think that does make sense because he fought the entire world for Sita, but at the end he just let her go into the forest. So how do we know what is worth giving, like sacrificing, and what is not worth sacrificing?
Excellent. Very, very good question. If I were to put it very plainly, what we love the most is the best thing to sacrifice. I'll come to that point that you very carefully raised. In Ramayana, that particular episode, Sita requests Ram 3 times, take me with you. He says no, nothing doing. Second time she requests, and he says, no, I'm not taking you. And he gives her the reason. Because when you go into the forest, my dear wife, you have shrubs, you have thorns, you are used to living a certain standard of life. And me as a husband cannot degrade your comfort. He tells her 2 times. The third time, Sita does not ask him. She tells Ram that all this time in my life, I thought that my father had gotten me married to a man. But today I realize that it is not so. She vilifies Ram's masculinity. Even then, Ram does not give up. You know what Ram sacrificed? His desire. Right? His desire. The only thing that Ram desired was for Sita to be comfortable. He sacrificed that. You see the point? It's very subtle. Ram's ego is Sita. If a man cannot protect his wife, do you know how the world will talk about him? Now it's different. But in those days, if a man cannot protect his wife, he is not considered a man. Ram was willing to sacrifice that to give Sita her desire. So that was sacrifice. That was his greatest sacrifice. But people don't see it that way. For Ram, it was always only Sita. As long as she's happy, I'm happy. But he had to sacrifice her happiness to take her. And Ramayana, you will read from time to time when Ram was looking at Sita, how much pain he was feeling in his heart. He did not have to go through that, but he went through it, and that was his sacrifice. So what we love the most, but one thing I'll tell you, Prabhu, you don't have to do it overnight. There will come a point in time, Krishna will bless us. Sacrifice is not auto. Krishna has to bless us. But what we can do is sacrifice something in our life. See, if you don't want to give money, at least take some flour and put it on the floor. Let the ants come and take it. Put some sugar. Something we have to give. If there's a beggar on the street, give him some money. Right? Of course, there's time, place and circumstance. But the best, in Kali Yuga, the best sacrifice that we can do is to give our time to devotional practices. And on the topmost of sacrifice is chanting the holy names of God. That is the ultimate sacrifice. Because any other sacrifice divorced from this, what happens is, it flares up our false ego. I am giving money. The ants are surviving because of me. So the ego flares up. But when you chant and then put the sugar for the ants, you will know that the sugar came to me because of Krishna. I am simply a medium. I got it. I did not want to get it stuck with me. So I let it flow. Money is also like that. Money should never stagnate in our lives. This deposit concept is a modern concept. It is not from Vedic culture. Money must flow. It's like water. If money doesn't flow and it stagnates, it will grip us. and it will destroy us from the inner side. Of course, now don't go and spend, everything. We have to save, but we cannot be miser. So the point you see, Prabhu, we have to sacrifice ultimately what we like the most, and that will please others. But if we cannot, minimally what you can now. If you're waking up at 5 a.m., we can wake up at 4:55 to chant. 5 minute sacrifice. Start. Your life forces will become unblocked. Then as life returns, you can sacrifice more. Is that okay? One last question. No?
If you're okay, we can do 10 minutes later.
Okay, we do
The
Kirtan?
vendors are there and
Yes.
most of them are like
Sure. Let's do Kirtan. That's the best. So now we have done the theory. Now let's do the practical. Usually when I go to programs, and Chaitanya Bhakta Prabhu always comes with me most of the times, one request that I always put forward is chant as loudly as possible. But in this program, I am not going to say that, because I was so surprised that just now everyone was chanting, right? So I really must commend all of you that you sacrificed your voice and your energy to chant the holy names of Krishna. So let's continue doing that. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद की, जय श्रीला गुरुदेव की, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। So thank you very much, Prabhus, Matajis, for joining us today. Before I hand over the mic to Shamdev Prabhu, I'm so grateful to all of you for coming here and for very patiently hearing. And for those of you who chanted the Gita and those of you who heard the Gita, I hope and wish that we will continue this journey with the Gita. It is such a transformational experience that all it takes is just a few minutes every day. We don't do it because it's too simple, right? There's no money attached to it. If it's a bit complex, maybe we would have taken it. but some things which are simple like breathing is very essential. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you so much.